the streets.
It's been so much fun.
It has been so much fun. And today we are here with a really important topic. Oh, by the way, like and follow our page, keep it all things Southeast Idaho, and make sure you like and follow the Murdock Manwaring Company real estate page for all things real estate. All right. So we are in Hammond. We are today, I think, really hitting a really important topic. I think a lot of people are curious.
Right now.
Yeah,
You want to talk about your location?
Yeah, we're in our location. So we're on the corner of 17th and Manwaring Road. We are visiting Behling Tax and Accounting today. By the way, this is, so if you're looking at her building, she's at this location of 3554 Manwaring Road, and just so you know, she is inside this at 206, suite 206. Let me get the door for you, please. Let me get the door for you, cameraman. I actually really love this building.
So it's a beautiful building.
It really is.
You come in and there's kind of this grand staircase.
Yeah. Very
Beautiful foyer.
kind of modern, but at the same time with the beams and things. Anyway, I really like this building. So we're going up to Holly's suite is 206. So you're coming up the stairs and you're hanging left. Yeah, this is all, I want to make sure we're clarifying how does this affect all of us? Or do we have to do anything different with taxes?
That's right, so many questions.
So many questions. Okay, here we are. Behling Tax and Accounting. Come on in. And here she is.
Well, hello, Holly.
Holly
Hi.
Behling. So your cats are like, oh, hey everybody. That's what you do.
So here we are at suite 206.
That's right.
Holly.
And Holly Behling, tell us a little bit about tell us about your tax and accounting business.
Well, I've been in business for about 23 years. I started out in my house for about 22. It's only in the past year that I've moved out of my house. And so I've been very experienced. I have a master's in taxation. I'm an enrolled agent, so I'm licensed to represent taxpayers in front of the IRS.
Wow.
So I have experience with individuals and businesses, a variety of businesses.
So what kind of service, what do they expect if they call you up? What are the things you offer for individuals and businesses?
I do, well, tax preparation, obviously, that's my specialty. I also do bookkeeping, QuickBooks support. I'm a QuickBooks Pro Advisor. I've used QuickBooks since it was 5.0 in like 1996, 1995 maybe. So it's been, I've used it for a very long time. And I also do payroll.
Gotcha. So that's pretty much everything that you need
that's
for a
very
small business.
comprehensive.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Okay, number one, before we dive into everything, how do they get a hold of you when they have more questions or want to talk to you about your services?
They can give me a call at 557-3013, or they can shoot me an email, contact me through my Facebook page.
Which there's a link to.
Do you have certain office hours?
I'm usually here from 9 to 5.
Okay.
During tax season, those hours are extended.
Right.
Usually it's just Monday through Friday, but during tax season I open on Saturdays, usually from about 10 until 2. So the building locks at 6, so I can't take any appointments after 6.
So in this, before I have all the questions about the COVID stuff, what's the difference between coming to you and having your taxes done at H&R Block? What are those differences, or doing them themselves?
Well, doing them yourselves on TurboTax is, I don't ever advise it unless it's just a W-2. TurboTax can get those right, and they can get others right, but when people are answering the questions that TurboTax asks as you go through it, they realize, oh, well, if I answer this differently, I get a different answer, I get a different refund, and they could actually be creating a fraudulent tax return. And you don't have that expertise right there where people are asking you questions. TurboTax will ask a lot of questions, but sometimes I have found as I just chat with a client, something else comes up and that's tax deductible. Did you not know that? And it may be something that TurboTax wouldn't pick up. H&R Block, when my husband and I first got married, we used H&R Block, so I'm not going to diss H&R Block.
Just different services.
They are different services. The thing about coming to me is you know who's doing your tax return. It's me. H&R Block, you go there year after year, you may get a different person every year. And you may just get somebody that just took their course and it's their first year and they don't have 23 years of experience behind them.
So you know their history and you can help better in that way.
I know their history.
So they should
I definitely keep that kind of stuff. I had a client that came to me last year or the year before, and he had needed W-2s from like 10 years ago. Well, most tax preparers will have gotten rid of those because they only hold them for 7. That's all we're required to. But because I scan all of my documents, I had it and I just sent it to him. I said, here you go, here's your copies.
It is really nice to have that relationship in the end.
I have actually developed a lot of friendships with my clients, so it's been really nice.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty.
Okay.
By the way, call Holly, have her do your taxes. Let's talk about, okay, the situation that we're in now. So they've extended the tax deadline. What does that mean for everybody? Is it just different date? Well, how does that work?
It means something different to just about everybody. If you are getting a refund, the deadline isn't going to matter because you still have 3 years to file a tax return to actually get your refund. The IRS will issue a refund for 3 years back.
Wow.
The catch is if you owe money to the government.
So if you're self-employed or you don't take enough deductions?
Right.
Okay.
Or if you didn't have enough tax withheld.
Yeah, right.
You didn't have enough tax withheld on different things. At that point, if you are going to owe money, they have extended the deadline to pay. You can still ask for an additional extension for time to file, but the extension for time to pay for the IRS is July 15th instead of April 15th. So if you didn't pay it April 15th, you aren't getting any penalties and interest at this point. You won't until after July 15th. They extended it for 90 days. Actually, it's 91. But I counted 90 days and that was July 14th, and then they came out with July 15th. I'm like, that's a good thing.
So if they file for an extension, is that date affected?
The extension is always just an extension of time to file. It's never an extension of time to pay.
Okay.
So you can still do an extension of time to file and still extend it until October 15th for individuals, September 15th for businesses. Businesses, if they had owed taxes, all this law came in after March 15th. So they really didn't get much of an extension per se for income taxes. However, they did for payroll taxes. So payroll taxes that were due in April now are due in July. So anything from July or from April to like June 15th can be paid in July.
So extension dates have stayed the same.
Extension for time of file
Exactly.
has stayed the same. It's just the extension of the time to pay. And people always seem to think that if you file an extension, you get an extension of the time to pay. You don't. The IRS wants their money.
Yeah.
But we also need to realize that Idaho did not give us the same deadline. Idaho's fiscal year actually ends on June 30th, and so the governor only gave us until June 15th. So if you owe state taxes, you need to pay those by June 15th, but you still have an additional month to pay the federal taxes.
I did not know that. So let's talk about that payroll tax, because people may have gotten these payroll relief loans to take care of that. How does that affect their taxes if they got a payroll relief loan?
Well, if it remains a loan, it won't have any bearing because they have to pay it back. The thing that businesses need to realize is they need to have every I dotted and every T crossed. Otherwise, those loans will not be forgiven. At that point, it will become a grant if they follow all the rules. They use it for 75% payroll. We're talking the payroll protection fund, the PPP. That you have to use 75% for payroll. If any less than
Can
that
it be
is
your
used for
own payroll, like paying yourself, or does it have to be employees?
There's some catches to that. There were some, they actually did specify that self-employed, sole proprietors could pay themselves. They kind of left out partnership guaranteed payments, but I know the intention was there to have the guaranteed payments be forgivable, because that is a payroll to a partner, because partners don't run through a traditional payroll. So it should be, those should be forgiven as well. You need to make sure that I have been advising my clients, and there is some disagreement out there by other individuals. I don't know if they're professionals or not. You get on Facebook and there's disagreements for everybody. But some of the advice that I have given my clients is set up a different checking account or savings account, and have the PPP money go into that account, and then you can document exactly what came out of that account. And you can say, okay, I paid the payroll from my operating account, I am now moving it from the savings account to here, reimbursing this portion of the payroll. They also need to make sure that they do not do the employer's taxes from the PPP. It does not cover that. It will only cover the gross wages. Some of the research that I've done on it says it's not meant to necessarily give bonuses either. Now you can restore them to, if you had stopped paying them or had paid less to an employee because of the COVID situation, and you're restoring that back pay, that is forgivable. But just saying, hey, we're going to give you a bonus, we're going to give you a raise, that's not. You have to keep your payroll at the same level. That was the whole object. Keep people out from going to unemployment and that kind of stuff, and maintaining their payroll levels.
So when they file that, is all that stuff filed through taxes, or is that all filed separately?
This is going to actually end up being
into a grant.
To turn it into a grant, you basically have to do the loan application twice. You did the loan application once to get the PPP loan. You will have to do it again to show, yes, this is what I used it for. I used it for 75% for your payroll. The other 25% I was able to use for utilities and rent or mortgage payments for my building. At that point, then they will say what portion is going to be forgiven. If you don't do it right, then it may not be forgiven, and you could even have an accelerated repayment period.
Wow. Yeah. So it's really important to know that.
That is really important.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the stimulus payment.
So people got this money in the mail.
Or right into their bank
account.
And everybody was texting me, emailing me, hey, when am I going to get, I don't know. The IRS didn't tell me, and they aren't answering their phone. They are answering their phones now. I was so happy the other day when I called the IRS and they actually answered. The stimulus money, it will end up being a line item on the 2020 tax return. I don't see how it can't be, because what it's considered is an advanced tax credit. So people that didn't get it for some reason, right, you know, in the past month or so, they will be able to get it possibly on their tax return for 2020.
Oh, so like I never got a check, but that still might be available to me, but it might be a tax credit. That's interesting.
So it would be a tax credit.
Yeah.
I have clients whose deceased spouse or deceased parent has received a stimulus check. Those need to be sent back immediately, and if you need an address, it is on the IRS website. So depending on what state you're in.
What would happen if they cash that? They're going to come.
Well, some of them did, because it was direct deposit into their bank account.
Oh, right.
So you just have to send it back ASAP, or it will be on your tax return next year. It has to be a line item.
Yeah,
it
that's
has to
interesting. That's interesting.
So I don't see how it can't be.
Yeah.
Because they have made these funds available until September 2021. So that's going into extension periods. So if you're extending your 2020 tax return for time to file until October, you better get it in before September, because the money might be gone, the stimulus money.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Is there anything else that's going on with taxes right now that everybody should be aware of that maybe we're not?
With taxes, I think the stimulus is probably the biggest thing that's going to affect people, and the PPP for people that have employees. Most of that's the biggest change, and that's what's affecting most of the people right now. There are other programs out there that I have had people look at. I know of a company, RDA, I think is the name of it.
The Rural Development Agency.
Thank you. I believe they are doing some sort of a loan coming up here pretty soon.
A small business.
For small businesses that didn't qualify for the PPP. There's also stuff from the state. If you didn't get the PPP loan and you still need help, then they do have that available. Some of those are loans, they won't turn into grants. I did find a grant out there. I believe Verizon is doing that, and there might be some other large companies that have been willing to step up and help some of the little people.
Yeah,
and
that's great. That's
do
something
some
to
grants.
look into, definitely. Then
I think they just need to Google, get online, business grants for COVID or something, and you will find them. You do need to be very careful and vet them, because you don't want to get involved in any scams.
Right.
And that has been, there's always scams, especially when it comes to taxes. You've probably all gotten the phone call, hey, this is the IRS, you need to pay us immediately. The IRS will not call you. They won't. They will send you a nasty letter that you say, I don't want to open this. Holly, will you please open this for me? I've had clients do that. I had one that had been a non-filer for 7 years, and he handed me a box.
Wow.
Yeah. I have all these unopened letters.
Unopened letters, yikes. So if they want no information, if you've got a little, can they call you and say, hey, do you know what my options are on that? If they're looking at that, or are you just saying, hey, Google it? Do you have things
for
that they
grants?
get? Yeah, for grants.
If
or
I know of one off the top of my head, and I know a client is looking for one, then I've been trying to forward them that information.
Okay.
They can call me, and I can send them, or email me, and I'll send them what information I have.
Okay.
I know that the PPP loan, it wreaked havoc with a lot of small businesses, because a lot of them don't do proper bookkeeping.
Yeah.
They just don't. They don't keep up on it. They'll. I have shoebox clients. They bring me the.
Yeah.
I have banker box clients. They bring me the banker box, and I do the bookkeeping. So you do that, and but I think that something that will probably come out of this whole COVID thing is people will learn to wash their hands on a regular basis. And businesses are going to learn, we've got to keep up on the bookkeeping. If we don't keep up on the bookkeeping and something like this happens and we have this availability, we've got to have a good set of books.
Yeah. Well, and what's nice is to have somebody be able to say, hey, let's get you on started with that. Let's get going. It's probably less cost than you think it is, and significantly more benefit and return than you realize.
I think that's the hardest thing to communicate to clients, is there really is a benefit to this. You don't want to be looking at, oh my gosh, this is a monthly cost, because of what I could potentially save you. Yeah. Because the businesses that I helped and we maintained their bookkeeping on a regular basis, those are the ones that got the PPP loans. The ones that were late, they didn't have their books in order, and we had to scramble and get them done.
Missed it.
They missed the deadline.
Yeah.
Now some of them may have gotten it the second round.
Right.
But it just, bookkeeping
is
a
good
extremely
business
important
practice.
It's
and it's hard, and I know this. Holly knows I know this. It's hard to get that part of your schedule when you do what you do some way else, and that's what you're good at. And
But that's how come I try and tell my clients, so you do what you're good at. You're good at marketing. You do your marketing. I'll do your bookkeeping.
It's so true.
Trust the professionals.
Trust the professionals. Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Holly.
We are the ones that like it.
Yeah,
we
that's true.
We
why
get
you
this
do it.
thrill.
Yeah.
People think I'm weird. I get a thrill out of a balanced balance sheet for some odd reason.
We need people
I like it to the
that.
penny. I like everything to have its right space. So I'll, I even help set up the chart of accounts the way that my clients, I try and follow the tax return so it makes sense, because it makes my job easier when I do the taxes, but I also want to make sure the terminology is correct for my clients, and if they want something to show in the cost of sales, then it's not in an operating expense, and I move it there. So we can structure that kind of stuff and follow generally accepted accounting principles anyway. So yeah.
That's awesome. All right, tell them one more time how they get a hold of you, because they need to start having you do their accounting and their taxes.
They can call me at 557-3013 or find me at bailingtax.com. Send me an email at hbailing@bailingtax.com.
Yep. Or
Facebook.
The link, because it's in the Facebook.
Yeah.
Right there. Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Holly, for great information.
You're
really
very
pertinent. Appreciate it. You guys, give Holly a call. It's worth it. It's worth getting yourself organized and making sure you're
Doing it right.
getting it right. That's awesome. All right. Well, thanks you guys for joining us. Happy Memorial Day weekend. This has been Jessica Carden
And Elise Powell.
your nosy neighbors, keeping you in the know.